Violence, we all love it. I love it, you love it, and most importantly, the bounty industry is thriving and paying for it. Today, we're taking these useless, no-life, bottom-of-the-barrel, starving vagrants and making them into bounty hunting machines. Well, not really, because as you know, once useless in Kenshi, always useless in Kenshi. Some people would call this a skill issue or a user error, but I think they're just genetically bent out of shape. But with a bit of craftiness through BTDM or Beak Thing deployment mines, and a hollowed out brain, making it easy to get back up after getting beat down over and over. Because as long as we get back up, we're never truly out of the fight. And nobody said we had to kill them, just knock them out. So, let's make some easy money. We start, as we always do, in character creation. This is our protagonist, Voth, a male human Greenlander with a face that would paralyze any person. Not from beauty, but pure disgust. Along with a spine to rival any hardcore gamer. Our spawn was the great area of Border Zone, bordering poverty and mental insanity. Of course, our first goal was to get a bit of money for weapons, food, and armor. Getting started with some casual theft, stealing all the goods from this empty and unguarded building, and moving on to the great city of Squin. And if you've never seen a unit run with complete dominance and overwhelming force and power, here you go. Yep, raw power. Just like that, we're at Squint. And we were met with a parade showered in weapons and blood. Or, in other words, I stood back and watched a group of 20 hungry individuals get massacred for my gain. With the massacre over, I sold some of the gear and purchased some food and a backpack. And then headed off to the most fun, money-making method imaginable. The mines. We mined for a day and then went back into town to hire some help. Voth seemed to be walking a bit slow, and I'm not exactly sure if that's because of the metal key sword and bag full of rocks, or the crippling U-shaped spine he was born with. But when we got to the bar, we sold all the copper and recruited Log, a new addition to the team. Sadly for him, he needed a bit of spinal reconstruction before joining, because Voth was a shy boy and didn't want to roam the lands, being the only one with terminal scoliosis. With his spine now rearranged, he was ready for the mines. This is where we would stay for a very long time. Watching people get slaughtered a few steps in front of us every so often happened to just be a part of the job. After 2 days of mining, we picked up another helper by the name of Aang, or Aang. He was also given the spinal reconstruction treatment. There would be absolutely no exceptions. Of course, we went back to the mines, but this time for a long 4 days, and upon selling the goods, we made a substantial amount of money. Aang attempted to break into a house and was immediately beat down and taken into captivity. And as the wonderful and amazing leader that I am, I decided to just leave him there, as I didn't really care because we had a new home to build up. The goal was to make weapons and armor and then set out on our bounty hunting journey. We continued to mine to generate money while we repaired the house and slowly built up the inside. After about 5 days, the house was built and the inside was being built out, with a copper storage box, crafting table, and most importantly, a weapon smithing table. The sad part is after we made it, there was only 2 weapons that could be made. In hindsight, I could have just leveled my skills and waited for better weapons. Instead, I completely scrapped that trash and just built dummies and training modules, where I would swap through my squad and train each of them in weapons, theft, and crossbows. The only downside was, well, it's me doing it. So some of them didn't get their full training because I was in a rush to murder some people for bounty money. But first I had to break into this tower and holding cell to train on their Mark III training dummies. This took about a day, and the extra stats would surely be helpful. But with that done, we just needed to buy some weapons and armor. Armor was something we just couldn't buy because, well, we ran out of money. But that's okay. Let's go get some bounties. With our map containing so many locations, I had to decide the best location for bounties. And with 0 information and no bounties, I chose Stout. Because not only was it in the desert, so if there was anyone with a bounty, there was a 100% chance I would see them, but to get there, we needed to cross through unmarked area, giving us some more knowledge of where people might be hiding when we do finally get the bounties. Of course, we were attacked in our travels, but we weren't killed, so this would only make us stronger. We simply wrapped our wounds and kept pushing forward. During that fight, I realized Voth wasn't using his crossbow, and that's because we didn't have the right bolts. We needed toothpick bolts that we happily sold earlier. Naturally, I stopped by the hub to grab some bolts that I could actually use and then continue out the city, but not without a plan. The plan was simple. We would follow behind these bandits and fight them. Winning or losing didn't really matter. We just needed the experience from the fight. As all of our plans go, it went terrible. They were just simply too afraid of our misformed spinal power. Since we were running so far, I was thinking we could kill 2 beak things with 15 to 25 stones. So I mined some iron to fill our inventories for strength training while we traveled. Our first stop was the great holy nation city of... well, I don't know. I didn't check. And I guess I kinda lied as well. We didn't really stop there. We walked up to the gate to be greeted with, "Clean up your beasts. I'll have no trouble within these walls." So we turned around and left. I wasn't really trying to get beat down in the middle of the night for no reason. Lucky for us, Kenshi misses no beat. When the middle of the night came around, we were viciously ripped apart by dogs anyway. So I guess fate is real, but on the bright side, we weren't slaves and we weren't eaten, so we pushed forward. Of course, by push forward, I meant 1 minute after my squad was finally conscious again, we were again beat down by more bandits. What a life. After Voth woke up this time, I sent him back to the holy nation city of, I'm still not sure, to sell the iron we had because I didn't want to be weighed down anymore, and we were starving. Voth spent every drop of money we had down to 6 cats for food, ready to move forward to Stout. And we got robbed. Fuck! The only thing keeping my sanity high enough to care about self-preservation was this bug, sending Aang into the stratosphere. Okay. With no food, this is just incentive to move faster and do better, so let's get moving. Our new goal was to get to World's End, make some money for food and armor. On the trail, we saw another city, by the name of Blister Hill. It looked really familiar, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Nevertheless, it was another holy nation city, but this time we had to deal with the racism and the chance of being murdered, because otherwise we would just die from lack of food. And of course, we were once again made into chew toys right outside the city. But honestly, the stay wasn't all that bad. Scraping up enough money for a bit of food and a bed for a full recovery. Then looked at some armor and realized it was way too expensive. So let's get a bit of money in the mines. Then get some more food and maybe some armor. Of course, right as I leave, a Holy Nation convoy was coming down the road and decided to beat me to near death and put me in a cell. Now, your guess is as good as mine, because I was literally just in their city and everything was completely fine. But it's okay. We would simply leave and never look back. It was a pretty smooth run. Nothing really happened on the way to the desert, and although the desert is just sand, it was oddly beautiful. When night hit, we laid our eyes on our first bounty. That would be Victor and BTP, which I can only assume stands for butt-touching partner, as he didn't leave the side of Victor's at all, for anything, with a combined bounty of 52,000 cats between them both. However, looking at their stats, even with just 2, hell, even if it was just one of them, we would have absolutely no chance of winning. But I would keep it in mind that he was just roaming around. To test the strength of my team, I decided to fight the lowest of the low, 5 starving bandits. In this fight, I realized really quick that when we were put in those cells earlier, my weapons were taken. This, of course, led to the loss of this fight. The bigger problem was even if we got to a city, we couldn't afford new weapons, because we were financially lacking. Back to the mines. Like many other times, it seems like the mine breeds opportunity. And this opportunity was a healthy group of outlaw swordsmen getting destroyed by a skimmer, which I gladly took what I could and fought the ones that woke up. And even better yet, one of them had a bounty. So I collected their body and we were off to town. With the flash of good luck, we were in a good spot to buy new weapons, food, and recover slowly over time. Now let's find that bounty board and get started. Turns out there isn't a bounty board. You just get them from the barkeep. So in every single town, probably from the very start of the game, I could have gotten bounties. Some would say it was a waste of time running this far. I say I was just stretching my legs. First, before the barkeep, we needed a bit of money. So we're back off to the mines. Opportunity didn't strike, but an odd coincidence did. That being a skimmer intently watching us mine. I feel like this was speaking on capitalism. If you work and you never stop working, you will never get in trouble. But if you move, you'll probably die to some horrendous creature built to destroy your livelihood. or something like that. In any case, now we have some bounties. The bounties read like this: race, name, description, and reward. For example, the Voodoo Brothers, Screamer, and PKN, both skeletons. A pair of highly intelligent and sadistic con artists wanted for gross malfeasance as medical and ancient voodoo practitioners in various cities across the land. Reward, 20,000 cats per head. In other words, we would never find them as they were wandering the entire world of Kenshi. What we did take was more precise, but not by all too much. The Canyonlands Killer, a dark-skinned, bulky frame, long-haired Scorchlander that killed travelers on the eastern trade route. This seemed area specific, so I got right to it and headed east. It was surprisingly smooth with no fights, just sand and more sand. Apart from seeing a random guy with cool weapons, there was nothing too interesting, and we made our way to the city of Bark with no problem. This was of course not our goal, and with a bit of research it turns out the Canyonlands Killer wasn't real. Apparently the devs cut him out of the game and just never removed the bounty, so this was a complete lost cause. On to our next bounty, Gutterhead, a leader of the scavengers wanted for numerous attacks and robberies on the roads of Venge, located south of the desert beyond the Eye, worth approximately 10,000 cats. Traveling to the Eye was simplistic, stopping by a town to check for any new bounties and getting some rest to recover our missing HP. The Eye was oddly nice to look at, and a great landmark, although you would never catch me going any closer to the center. Venge looked a lot like the rest of Kenshi. Broken down parts, homes, rubble, and of course, sand. The main difference from Venge compared to the other places is the huge death ray that comes down and burns everything under it. And the best part, it's random. We're rolling the dice every second to see if we're going to be fried for existing. However, we had a bounty to find, so there was no time to worry about the imminent danger of being burned to a crisp. Soon after entering Venge, we found 2 destroyed buildings with lots of scattered parts, from power cores to skeleton repair kits. Or in our case, lots and lots of cats. It was not completely free money, as we needed to fight off a few weak thrall every so often, but it was no real hassle. Our problem started when we were leaving, as a massive group of weak thrall came out of nowhere and started chasing us down. Luckily for us, all that running, I guess, put us at the perfect breakpoint to run in a pack of them, but not have them attack. I'm not 100% sure what just happened and why we got out almost unscathed, but the bounty was still in that area somewhere. We went back in and traveled on the southern path, this time hoping to find our target. We were sadly, once again, not lucky. My last idea was to travel into the center of Venge and hopefully he would reside somewhere in the middle. If not, all we worked and dreamed of would have been for nothing. With enough searching, I found a tower. It had to be where he was. It was destroyed. It was destroyed. Atop that tower, you could see another one. That one wasn't so broken. While moving there, I was attacked by a beak thing, so naturally I knocked it out, healed it, gripped it by its neck. This was the first and possibly the last iteration of the BTDM, or Beak Thing Deployment Mine. The plan was simple. We open the gate, run inside, and whatever's in there has to deal with the beak thing as we run. Easy plan. This of course backfired, but this time in an odd way. The beak thing didn't get up as planned, but the guard grabbed it and walked out, not attacking and just taking all the hits from my team. But right as he fell, the beak thing arose and he wasn't so happy with us. And the guards, now ready to actually fight us, came outside and showed us how things are done. So we couldn't win this. There was no way to win this. There was just too many guards and they were way too strong, is what I would say if I was a pussy. Our bounty was walking down the stairs right now. If this wasn't a perfect time to do something crafty, there would never be, leading him outside into the open ground where we have tons of room to run. If you remember where we're running, there are massive beams of death coming down, so all we needed was a sacrifice and we could kill or pacify our bounty. Sadly, our luck ran out, and after running around and having our health slowly chip down, our sacrificial plan failed. But this is Kenshi. The same reason a beak thing can kill my enemies is the same reason they can kill me. They hate everyone. And the only thing that hates these bandits more than me are the robots that share the same territory. That's right. Just like a pack of angry villagers finding a monster or witch, the weak thrall came out of nowhere again and started attacking what was left of the bandits and Gutterhead himself. With enough time and maneuvering, Gutterhead was weakened and all we needed to do was deliver the finishing blow. When he hit the ground, we quickly bandaged him up and threw him on my shoulder, and we collected Voth as he was not in great shape himself. Now all we had to do was walk back, which was surprisingly peaceful, crossing through the eye and going to the great town of Hing to drop off our bounty and sell our earnings. The bounty landed us 10,000 cats as advertised, and the profits from the 2 buildings before the fight gave us 40,000. What we learned today is theft, working in the mines, and pillaging destroyed buildings and corpses is a far more time-effective strategy than training and building an army to find some random murderer that not only might or might not exist, but when given a clue, it reads Scorchlander living in crappy area. Just open up your eyes for a second. All of Kenshi is a crappy area. Yet, I feel like you think I'm still not a true bounty hunter. So, let me prove it to you. Funny enough, I don't need a scrap of paper to tell me where my next bounty is, because it's No-Face. Someone that's terrorized my dreams ever since I fought him the first time. So, we're gonna head over to Gut and show him what we can do. Of course, with all of this extra money from the bounty, I was gonna use it. And I spent most of it on food and 5 extra people to help us out. Although with some of their terrible past lives being convicted murderers and even killing their own families, they had some of the worst stats I've ever seen. But they did have weapons. I'm not exactly sure why I did this, but I took them out to Stout and fought some starving vagrants. With their test passed, it was time for the real deal. Now we're at Gut, the Beak Thing's homeland and also home of No-Face. No-Face somehow convinced these hellborn creatures that he was friendly, so they won't attack him and will actually assist him. This was going to be no problem of ours though, because we have 5 extra people. I didn't hire these people to be help in a fight, I hired them as decoys. So when the Beak Things see something tasty, they'll get a little snack. So we found our way over to No-Face, not attracting any Beak Things, which was a major stroke of luck. With all 8 of us, well, 7, because Voth is always on the ground, we took out No-Face, and we threw him on our backs, and we headed out. Leaving Gut was, however, far harder than getting in. Of course, this meant sacrifices were needed, and I was fully ready to sacrifice everyone except the original 3. And that is exactly what I did, killing off every single person other than Voth, Log, and Ang. We headed back to town with absolutely no problems and a smile on our face, and turned in the bounty for an additional 15,000 cats. Now I can proudly say that I'm a bounty hunter, not only in the bounties that are right in front of me, but also in my moral code, as I will happily and gladly sacrifice 5 people I just paid for a drop of the money it costs to hire them, adopting the true bounty hunter way.